Welcome to the Pattern Painter tutorial by Cromware. In this video, we're going to do a quick overview of the Pattern Painter tool, how it works, the UI, and how you can use it to speed up your game development. So the purpose of the tool is very simple. It projects a geometric pattern onto a mesh, and then it instantiates prefabs on those projected points, on those projected pattern points. Let me show you how it works. First, you select your mesh. In this case, I have a cube here that I've extended. Then I calculate placement points. It will show me these points. I specify a prefab to create those and add those points, and I hit create prefab at placement points. In this case, I don't want them all to be randomly rotated, so I'm just going to say recalculate the prefab rotation to the default, and now all my prefabs are there. This tool is compatible with basic functionality like Control-C, like undo and redo. So I'm going to hit undo right now. And in order to keep your scene more organized, you can also specify a game object as a pattern object. And whenever you create all of these new prefabs in your scene, they're going to be all nested under the specified pattern object. Here's something a little bit more in depth though. We can specify more than one prefab. Let me show you that. I'm going to undo this, add a second row here, and I'm going to specify a little yellow turret. So when I calculate that, now I have a lot of red and yellow turrets, and you can keep going more and more, right? I'm going to go back a little bit. I'm going to keep those two there, but actually undo the creation. And let me just modify, configure the grid a little bit more. And you can specify for each pattern, you can configure kind of how it looks. In this case, you just saw me change the grid size. You can say I want a checkered pattern instead of a regular grid. I want a line. You can specify the rotation, the spacing, the offset on the X and Y. And for each point along that line, if you don't want it to be obvious, you can also specify a random offset for each point, right? And it's not going to look at such a straight mathematical line. We also have arc patterns. In this case, you can make an arc. It looks like a circle. Well, let me bring down the randomized offset down to 0. So it looks like a circle because our current configuration for the arc is saying that the arc circumference should cover 360 degrees. But if you change that, now it starts to look a little bit better. And let me change the prefab rotation to be facing the center of the pattern. Now you can see the turrets facing inward, and so when you create the turrets, they're all going to be aiming at the center of the pattern. Again, you have other rotations. You can face away from the pattern. You can just give them random rotations to each one of them. It's up to you. I'm going to undo this. And let's go look at some of the other patterns. We have other shapes. In this case, like an oval that is configurable. You can say I want it to be that long and this wide. Again, you can rotate all of these, and then you can randomize the offset of each individual point. Lastly, we have the circle patterns. This is a lot of prefabs projected onto this surface as a concentric circles. In this case, let me make it a little bit more spread out. You can also apply an inner hole for all of these. And let me just put them facing towards the center of the pattern. There, you can apply an inner hole to see how much you want to give an area in the middle. And you can have radial spokes for this one. Let me show it to you a little bit more like that. And you can specify how many spokes you want to have or the angle in between each of these. So when you create, for example, I want that many, and then you go ahead and create prefabs. You know what? Control-C. Let's do that, but I'm going to give it a bit of a hole. So in this case, there's an area in there for the player to interact. Maybe you're leading them towards a treasure or something like that. Lastly, I want to show you, let me undo this. I want to show you the alignment settings, which are very useful if your prefab is not just, it doesn't happen to be a perfect square, right? So if you have a prefab that looks kind of like this, and you can project your points onto it, I'm going to go ahead and do this. The generated or instantiated prefabs are going to align to that mesh's geometry. And it's important that the mesh has a collider for that. Now, another thing I want to mention here, let me undo this, is that the tool will go based off of your topmost selected game object in your hierarchy. So in this case, if this elevated surface is a child of my base surface. Both of them will be used when previewing how the prefabs are going to be created. Last but not least, I want to go over the several settings and kind of like user-friendly functions that this tool has. So let me just undo my creation, reset the settings. This tool will show you a status message wherever you are. So if you've been seeing kind of along here what we've been doing, in this case I just reset the settings and it says settings have been reset, right? And if I try to create something and I don't see it working, it will tell me like, please select a game object with a mesh in the hierarchy in order to project a pattern onto it. Oh, okay, it's because I hadn't selected anything. Now I can do that. It'll tell me how many placement points are selected, and you can kind of look at here. If there's some troubleshooting options, it will also tell you like, hey, maybe try looking at this, or this is likely the error, right? Or the cause. However, if you ever find yourself that you still need help, you can open up the settings and support tab. We have a contact us button right here. It'll take you to where you can submit a form if you need help, or if you want to just show us what you've created with these. We would love to see that and just kind of put it in our asset store page too, or share with the community. There's also a link for the documentation. We moved all of our documentation online because it's easier to keep it up to date here. And we are also providing for everything that we have here has been fully localized in so far 4 languages, but we will be adding more in the future. And so that is also true for the tool. So here, if I were to like change this to Japanese, right, and I try to add something, the message that's being shown in the status is also fully localized in these 4 languages, right? So it's going to tell me that whenever, whatever message you get is going to be in your selected language. Last but not least, I wanted to show you some controls here that are going to apply for the preview. So in this case, you can also control the transparency. Oh, let me put this back to English. You control the transparency of the preview. Sometimes you can make it really, really opaque or more transparent. This can be helpful depending on what your scene colors are like to be able to see this kind of pop up. And then the next thing I wanted to show you is something that it's helpful for me. It's kind of like a tip or a trick that I kind of noticed when I was developing this. So if you want to just project points onto a part of your surface, but not the entirety of your surface, you can create a temporary surface, just a cylinder or a block or something. In this case, I have something like this. You can project your pattern onto there, right? And let me just turn off this other surface to make it easier to see down there. And create your prefabs on your temporary surface, and then you turn off that temporary surface. Whoop, not that one. You turn off this temporary surface. And you hit align with surface. When you do that, it's going to just drop down on the y-axis all of your instantiated prefabs. And whenever they hit anything that is in this specified list of layers here, right, it's just going to align them to that. So in this case, you will see we have aligned basically our pattern projected onto a temporary cylinder surface or circle surface up like above this in the y-axis, down onto just part of our mesh here. And you'll get this helpful message. Align 33 game objects and 36 could not be aligned, and this might be because either the alignment surface doesn't have a collider or it's on a different layer. Check it out and try again. So thank you for following along, and if you enjoyed Pattern Painter or you are, would like to support us, please, we'd really appreciate you giving a quick review on the asset store. It does help us a lot, and you can do that by just clicking this button, leave a review, and also your feedback helps us either create new patterns or just improve the tool overall. So thanks again.